Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace, your host. And today is Sunday, and hopefully all it set your clocks ahead to spring forward because we lost an hour. Yesterday would be 9:30 at this time, but now it's 10:30. I started a half an hour later on Sundays only due to another broadcast that's taking place and didn't want to interfere with the people watching both podcasts. This is a live podcast from Southern California, and I'm here to talk about CPS and stop taking our children. Those seem to be a hot topic these days. And yes, I was involved in CPS. I've been fighting them for 14 years. I've talked to hundreds of people across the country, and even in other countries, I've talked to people. And I find something very similar. CPS is doing child trafficking. They're using alienation between our kids and us as parents. They're very deceptive. They're very deceiving. They're not transparent. They're not friendly. And they don't believe in family reunification or the fact that proves studies that the best parents for our kids is our biological parents. And if it's humanly possible, we should try that first. We should try that first. For some of you that don't know what CPS stands for, it stands for the Child Protection Services. It's a branch of social services. We have a federal entity that was created to help us as people, not only about our children, but us as people, to feed us, to house us, to make sure if we're elder to be taken care of. And that's what social service is all about. It's to help every American and non-American because we now have millions and millions of immigrants. And so they're helping them too. And I know that our resources are being taxed a lot by that. But this branch of social services, the Child Protection Services, it may be called DSS or DC something or whatever, it's all the same. We do have child abuse bad in the United States. There's horror stories of child abuse. Um, Child abuse is it's really bad. There's no question about it. But not every case should be about the extreme that they do with extreme cases of child abuse. What I mean by that, there are allegations made by lay people and professionals that may not be true. They're allegations. But the way it's set up is that when they call in and report the allegation, CPS must believe it's true. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. It's the only court of law where you're guilty till you're proven innocent. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Yes, it disgusts me to hear about the horror stories of children that are abused and neglected. It goes on. But not every case, not every family is like that. And that's what's happened. The CPS has somehow learned to treat every case the same. And it all boils down to one common thing: money. And the problem being is that there's so much money that's piled in. And you wonder about our federal government corrupt all the time. It's because they have no control with money they give people. I mean, there's money that's given to religious cults in Utah that refine natural or make a natural gasoline or something, and they never make a drop of it. And the government gives millions of dollars to that. There's this thing in child services. Every child, when a case is opened, receives $20,000, not the child and not the parents, but the people in charge of CPS. And there's no accountability. There's no one watching them. They're not transparent. They hide. They've discovered a thing called greed and money, and it buys social workers their Gucci purses, their eyelashes, their makeup, their cars. They're given bonuses. And my social worker bragged about it. Bragged about it. And the sad part is these social workers don't have a college education. Most of them don't. They should have a degree in social work, how to work in social work, how to help people with food and Medicare and to take care of and watch their children, how to take care of the elderly, how to take care of housing and clothing and so forth. They need that, especially social workers that deal with child abuse should have a license or certificate that has got to be renewed. It's got to be checked out. They need to have a background check. It's too lackadaily. They need a thorough background check. They need a college degree, and they need to be mentored, meaning they need to follow an experienced social worker for a period of time, let's say 10 years, before they're trusted to get in there. Now, I welcome everybody that comes in here, and I hope you all understand this is an interactive podcast, meaning it's not only me speaking, but all of you can speak various ways. One way is to text me a comment. All I ask is you put the city and the state you're from so I get an idea where it is, because I try to put a consensus of where the problem is with CPS. It seems to be all across the United States, from Maine, Massachusetts, down to Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, over to Texas, back up to Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, even over Minnesota, and then over to South Dakota at the Rosebud Reservation. And I'll talk a little bit about ICWA and the Native American Child Welfare Act of 1979. I try to help you all. I'm not an attorney, but I have experience. I'm also a guy that cares what you're going through. I feel for you. I went through the same thing, but I went through it later in my life. I didn't experience this when I was young, and it probably would have been a lot better. I lost my home to CPS. I lost my daughter to CPS. They're a little bit of tragically. My wife and I have been together for 32 years, and I think I've lost her too. We're so far apart. It's terrible. It's terrible. We have 6 children. We have 2 groups, older children and younger children. And the younger children were caught up in CPS. And 2 of them that returned to us have suffered still today. And our case was over in 2017. It started 2015 when they stole my children and brainwashed them with alienation. But it actually started in 2010. So right now, if you have a comment that you'd like to make, or you like to say about your CPS case, or you have a question or a critique about something, maybe something I said offended you, or it was different what you thought about, I try my best to answer all the comments as best as I can and to help you along your road, because you're in a tough territory. CPS is like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in that rabbit hole and you don't know where you're going or where you're turning. It's very complex. It's a spaghetti of nightmares. Spaghetti of nightmares. It's so interlaced. It's like a spider has a web and they got you locked in. And it's so hard to fight them. It's so hard to fight them. I know you love your children. You wouldn't be in this room, in this podcast, if you didn't love your children. You wouldn't be fighting for them if you didn't love your children. So anyway, I'd love to have a comment from you. I've already gotten 2 thumbs up, which is great. I love the emotes, the loves and stuff like that, or the sad faces, the happy faces. I have 7 people right now watching, and that's great. I welcome you all. So just text me a comment. And that's one way you can interact with this room. Another way is I have my office number turned on, and I can take phone calls at 626-698-0990. That is for 1 hour. That stays on, or actually have about 50 minutes left. And you can call in, and instead of writing comments, you can actually speak. Your picture won't be on the screen, but you can call in and talk about your case. And I've had lots of people do that. I've had men and women, and I know it's hard. It's hard to talk about your case, but sometimes I find out by talking about it, it helps me be a better person. Now, if you don't feel like talking right now, that's okay. You can still send an email to my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com, who will put you into one of my 14 podcasts. I love to have a guest every day, every morning, every evening. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock every morning, and from 7 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock every night. That's all Pacific Standard Time. The only exception is today. I come on a half an hour later because there's another podcast that's taking place, and the people want to see both. Also today, I'm amazed that all of you found me on Facebook, because today we sprung forward. Our clocks are ahead 1 hour. Of course, the computers would do it automatically, but my stove clock and my microwave clock didn't, and probably the alarm clocks and those kinds of clocks didn't either. But we're 1 hour. We've lost 1 hour. We're spring forward. Now it's going to get more light, and maybe it'll be a lot better. Wintertime is always dismal. It is. Okay, we have two people that just text in. Central Florida, pulled up case. That's Jessica James. I need help with a very unusual case. Scared to make situations worse. Understand, Jessica. That's understandable. And you just tell me what you want to talk about. Chris Williams, hey, glad to meet you, Chris. What city, state are you from? And what can I do for you? Okay, we started to have some text messages. I just finished off with how to be a guest on this podcast. Your picture will be shown and your voice. All you do is write our producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com, and she'll get you in touch with my podcast, one of my 14 podcasts. Okay, Candy Shop Bikinis. I like to talk to you, but this isn't about taxes. This is about child protection problems. And also, I need to know the city and state you're from, Candy Shop Bikinis. And if you have a CPS case, I certainly will help you out there. Now, I'm going to give you one of the most important rules that you need to know about CPS. And that is, what you need to do is you need to have a lawyer. And I know that scares the daylights out of you because they cost money. Well, just think of this. You need open heart surgery. Something's wrong with your heart. Are you going to have a layman go into your body and do your open heart surgery, place a valve or do something there? Or are you going to have a professional, a doctor that's been to medical school, that's done an internship, that has been a seasoned doctor for some time to operate on you? That's the same thing I say about CPS. CPS is a very complex, it's worse than you're doing open heart surgery. I'd rather do open heart surgery than deal with CPS. But you need an attorney. And you say, oh my goodness, where am I get an attorney, special attorney that will fight for me? Now, there's two kinds of attorneys you can get. You can get the public defender that will come with your dependency case, your court, the public defender. Well, that guy or girl is a lawyer, but he may not be specialized in dependency court, juvenile court, family court, or family law. Also, they are burdened with about an average of 20 cases that they're trying to handle at one time. Well, they're not going to spend much time with you. Lastly, they're in cahoots with the judge, with the courtroom, with the other attorneys, and they really won't fight for you. I know that from experience and from what you people tell me. So a public defender may be free, but you get what your free is. So if you can picture yourself, a layman, doing open heart surgery on you, good luck. Because they don't know the law. They try to settle for something less. So I'm telling you that. So it's really important that you find an attorney. Well, I've done all the searching for you. I have an attorney right now that's fully qualified. This podcast is produced by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. It's a law firm in Southern California that has many lawyers that handle all areas of legal matters, criminal matters, immigration matters, dependency matters. You name it, they have it. Well, the attorney that is the one that I think is one of the leading child protection attorneys in America is Vincent W. Davis. He's a professional attorney. He's been through law school and he has practiced law for a long time. He is a CPS fighter, and he has gotten kids back that CPS has illegally stolen from parents. And his name is Vincent W. Davis. He's a trial attorney. He has won cases against CPS. He got back my kids from CPS, and he has sued CPS and won. Now, Karen Cook just texted me a message, and she's trying to help us. I forgot what state. Oh, you're from Illinois. That's right. Karen Cook from Illinois. I don't know what city you're near, but that is great. I'll put this up here for a second. The first thing you need to do is read the statutes in your state regarding child protection services and the policy and procedures in your state. And once you know those guide you returning if you choose to have one. Most attorneys are not focused completely on a CPS case. I agree with you, Karen. That's good. I'm glad that you're helping us in there. And right now, I'd like to offer all of you a chance to talk to a bona fide fighter in CPS. Right now, you can call my office, 888-888-6582. Tell them that Bob Pace sent you and that you want to schedule a consultation with Mr. Davis. He's offering a consultation at $49.99 for 30 minutes. It's well worth every penny that you talk to him because he will tell you the strategies of how to navigate through CPS and get your children back. It's a simple phone call. And make sure when you talk to him that you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And so, with that being said, here is an attorney that you may want to retain. He will work for you in Southern California, Northern California, and all the 50 states. His retainer is based on the complexity of the case, how long the case has been going on, and where it's located. If it's out of state, it's going to be more than in state, only because he has to put a place to stay and travel. Those are expenses that are in addition to that. But he'll have a retainer made, and that's how attorneys work. They charge a retainer. They want to have enough money to start the case. And, a lot of them aren't in the giving out their time. Mr. Davis does a lot of his time for free. He will help out. He's well worth every penny you pay him. So if you can get an attorney, I had to sell my home, but if you can get an attorney, do so. Again, think about the open heart surgery. Do you want a lay person doing it? Do you want someone that isn't trained doing it? Or do you want a professional like a dependency family juvenile attorney? And that's Mr. Davis. He's a trial attorney. He has a background. He's a fighter. So call in 888-6582. Do that $49.99 consultation with him for 30 minutes, and you'll know the strategies and how to fight and so forth. But I like what Karen said. At first, I didn't take CPS seriously. At first, when I started receiving these dumb phone calls about not paying for my utilities, not putting the kids in school and stuff, I started questioning myself, who in the world is saying that? Well, if I was smart back then, I would have recognized it's my in-laws. That is who eventually tried to take her kids away from me and my wife. And I should have known that because at the very beginning, 32 years ago, when I met her in-laws, they didn't like the idea of her marrying me or having children or whatever. They've done nothing but try to take and break her family apart. They've done nothing but to take or break her family apart. And I thought they were good people. They were Christians and they had Christian values. And I thought they were good people. But they used CPS, as many of you have found out, to alienate the children from their parents and say false allegations. I think that needs to be changed. I think any allegation that's made to CPS must be in writing and signed by the person doing so. And I'm serious about that because there'd be less false allegations because people use the phone to hide behind. And if they say a false allegation, they could be sued. Now, I know they don't give out the names of who made the allegations. But if they are false, the information could be obtained and they could be sued. They could be sued. So keep that in mind. We need to change that. And how we change that is at the representatives and the senators in Congress. We go to them and tell them we need to make changes. CPS needs to be changed. There's a lot of things that need to be changed in the area. Now, rule number 2 is that you got to start taking notes, and I did not do that. I mean, I didn't even try to find an attorney because I know how valuable an attorney was. I thought I could fight this on my own. At the time this happened in my life, in 2010, I had just lost a job through no fault of my own. I had a perfect storm brewing. I had half my retirement lost when the banks crashed because they gave out too many predatory loans. Those are loans given to people where the lenders mess up the income and they um, change the documents to make you a better candidate for the loan so they can collect their bonus. They were all strictly for money. And the company that did it, they're out of business, was Countrywide. Now, maybe you've heard of them, but they gave out loans. And the manager at Countrywide, who's still doing loans, by the way, is still a bad news. Still a bad news. Now, Karen just said something. Let's see what she says. Karen Cook from Illinois says, if a child has been removed and there has been a shelter care hearing, you can then immediately file a motion to have the child placed with a family. This needs to be done within the couple, I'm trying to read there, couple weeks to remove the children. Well, it needs to be done sooner. Karen, when children are needed to take because of immediate danger, imminent danger to the children. By the way, the definition of imminent danger is very lax in the social services. There's a thing called a safety meeting that happens within that week that your children are taken. My children were put into a shelter with no protection at the shelter. That shelter was an awful nightmare of a place. And my children shelter was right next to the yard for the juvenile inmates that were serving time in there. So my children were exposed to juvenile inmates. What kind of protection is that? Not only that, the play yard area was bee infested, and all these bees could sting your children. Is that protection? Is CPS protecting our children? No, this was in Southern California. It was a block-like structure, very, very cold and impersonal. And then they were put in crowded bedrooms on top of each other. And then they were fed food that wasn't suitable for anybody. And then their idea of schooling was to sit there and read books and storytelling. They weren't put to their school of choice. They were put into the CPS school, and it was terrible. And when we saw our children that night, when they took them in the morning, we were horrified, and there's nothing that we could do about that. Nothing we could do about that. But we were told there'd be a safety meeting where we meet with a social worker, and we're supposed to make a list of people that our kids could stay with. A list of people like family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents, those kinds of individuals that would have a home to temporarily house and take our children to school and take care of their medical needs, the medications, those kinds of things, and give them the love that we give them. I think all parents give a lot of love to their children. They wouldn't be here in this room if they didn't have love for their children. So there's a safety meeting that you have to institute. Also at that time, they're going to bring up, or they should bring up if they haven't, if there's any Indian children involved. What I mean by that, The first immigrations to this country was the Native American Indians who came over from Asia, through Alaska, down through Canada, into North America, Central America, and South America. These first immigrants are the Native American Indians, and they have been abused in North America greatly so, I think in other places too. But historically, in the 1860s to the 1890s, they were abused. Innocent women and children were slaughtered. They had babies in their arms and they were shot by these soldiers who supposedly say that they were bad. You know, they not only killed the men, the old men, and murdered them, especially when they didn't have arms and they were helpless. And I'm talking about the Wounded Knee Massacre. If you've studied about American Indians, the Lakota Sioux were in a camp, and these soldiers sat there with these big Hauser cannons firing explosive arms at innocent people. That's not how you treat the first immigrants. That's not how you show respect to the Native American Indian. You know, they were here first. We should have learned a ways to have both cultures exist. When you came over as an immigrant, if you're an Irish immigrant or an English immigrant or a French immigrant, we are a culture of many immigrants from around the world. We have our own culture. It's not being suppressed. And we had to learn the language. We had to learn the government. We had to learn the history of the United States. That was important. That's why we have it in high school. You take U.S. history. You take U.S. government. You learn about the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive branches. You learn how they operate, the Supreme Court, and so forth. That is all important to you. There's constitutional rights that you have. And I know, Karen, what you said there, in a couple weeks you can go and file a motion. Yes. I don't know what that motion is. The only motion I know of that you can file in court to get the judge to listen to you is a 388 motion. It's a petition that you file in court to have a hearing in front of the judge, and he has to do that hearing within 30 days of filing that petition, that motion. And that is for new information, or that you've completed your programs or parenting classes, or that you have new information about the allegations that are not true. That's to reintroduce it into the courtroom. That's the motion I'm talking about. Karen, if you could elaborate that motion that you're talking about in a couple of weeks, I'd like more information on that. I appreciate that, because maybe in Illinois you have something there that I don't know about. But going back to my safety meeting, when you meet with these social workers and you're Native American Indian, there's a thing called ICWA, the Indian Welfare Child Act of 1979. It was passed after many, many years of CPS constantly putting American Indian children in foster care, taking away the Native American Indians. And what it basically does, it says that CPS must actively locate the Indian children's native tribe to see if they are registered in that tribe or could be registered. So there's a federal list of American Indian tribes. And on that federal list, there is your tribe. And if you are registered or could be registered, CPS has to notify them. But what this all means is CPS doesn't take care of your children. The tribe families take care of your children. The tribe takes care of their children. And the tribe's better suited with their own kind, with their own people. And they don't abuse the Indian children. They do not abuse the Indian children. They try to straighten out the parents and work with the parents, and they stay with Indian families. That's what the ICWA is all about, is to give the Native American Indians a fair chance to get back with their children. It's proven, I've probably said this over and over again, that the best parents are the biological parents. It's been proven with studies like that. So that is a safety plan meeting. Karen says there's another meeting you can request for a hearing. I just need to know more about it. Karen Cook from Illinois. Again, I like to remind everybody who's listening to us that you can call in at 626 698 0990. That's my office phone number. I will take the call and put you on speakerphone if you want to talk about your case instead of texting in. Texting is fine. All I ask is you put the city and state, and texting is fine. I love to have you in my room. There's no question about that. With that being said, I was talking about rule number 2. Rule number 1 was the attorney. Rule number 2 is take notes. The notes I'm talking about are notes about your CPS case, the incidents that happen. You just put in your notebook the date, the time, the people involved in the incidents, the people that are involved in the incidents. It could be the social worker, it could be the policeman, the child, the parent. If you don't know the names, that's okay. Social worker number 1, social worker number 2, whatever. And then you want to put what the incident was about. Taking your children, a home visit, met with them, whatever the case may be. And you want to write that down for every incident. And then you want to put the outcome. The children were returned, or the children still not returned. The outcome may take months to fill out. But 6 months from now, you'll need that information to go back to it. We all are bad about writing things down. I write down sometimes on papers, envelopes, and stuff. No, you need a notebook. You need to organize it. And I try to do it on my phone, but it's too small. My computer the same way. The best thing is a nice, standard white notebook with lines on it. And you can sit there and write in entries, just like you're doing a diary, where it is. Skip a couple lines, put the next incident. The reason why you skip the lines, you may want to add more things there. You may want to put some points. Also, a notebook could be a place that you put what you learn in finding CPS, the laws you find, the motions, and everything. Again, that is a book about your CPS matters. It's supposed to work for you, not necessarily for me, but for you. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 1 is to get that attorney. And I'm telling you, right now, Mr. Davis is available. You can call in the office at 888-888-6582. Tell them that Bob Pace sent you, and you can set up a consultation with them for 30 minutes for $49.99. That's $50. That's really a saving out there. So I've told about rule number 1. I've told you about rule number 2. And there's one last rule I want to talk about. And this rule is when you're faced with social workers come into your door, or they call you, or they try to bring policemen to intimidate you in their SWAT uniforms or their battle fatigues or their combat boots, which is nothing more than intimidating people. I mean, if you want to work with people, you have to learn some good people skills. And right now, the police and CPS have forgot about people skills. You need to be courteous and nice. Just like the officers like to be treated courteously and nice, the people like to be courteously and nice. I mean, it's so terrible to see these stories about how policemen are so much assuming things And I agree, we need policemen. I don't see to outdate them, but they need to be sworn peace officers to withhold the peace, not vigilantes sitting there beating up people. Or, you're going to shoot somebody. Why do they have to shoot to kill? Now, I know it's a hard decision to make because if a guy's pointing a gun at you, you don't want to take time. But I don't know why, if there's such good marksmanship, they can't shoot people in the legs or the arms or someplace where it doesn't kill them. I see too many cases where they kill them or they repeatedly fire, 10 rounds or 15 rounds or 20 rounds. And it's bad. It's really bad. And so these police are used by social workers to implement whatever scare tactics the social workers are trying to do. They're on a witch hunt. They have these allegations made, either by professionals or lay people. The professionals have to, they're sworn by law. They have to work with children. They have to report any suspected negligence or abuse. So they have to. But as I said earlier, they need to change that. Instead of a verbal request, it has to be made in writing and a name is signed to it. It's really sad what's happened with the most important department, Child Protection Services. Because we are the parents. We shape and mold our kids to be better people in life. We as parents, there are bad parents. There are two parents right now that are going through trial. One of them has already been convicted, but it's a story about a child at 15 that got an assault weapon, multiple rounds assault weapon, and killed 4 high school students and injured numerous others. And those 4 innocent high school students are not allowed to do anything in life. They're gone. Life is too short. One gun in somebody's hand can end everything. Guns, I understand the First Amendment that we need guns. We've always need guns to defend ourselves or to get game. But we don't need assault weapons or multi-arm assault weapons where we need to go in there and kill the people. I mean, ever since they invented the Gatling gun, the machine gun, and so forth, that has been a terrible, terrible weapon. I mean, I've watched so many times these Gatling guns in the West kill these Native American Indians on horseback with bows and arrows. And it's just so bad. We'd always have to have a weapon. Our weapons of mass destruction right now are nuclear capabilities. We can supposedly, from outer space, key point any place on Earth. We have space technology. We have killer satellites. There's so much. Why we need these state of arts? It's always, chasing one society against the other society. We need to work together. There's so much turmoil in this world. It's so sad to watch the Ukraine, country people be murdered and killed. I mean, it's like World War II again. And Israel is going through a very tough job of trying to weed out the bad guys that are mixed in with the good guys. And it's a miserable experience there. It really is. But the same thing is happening in CPS. Yes, not onto the magnitude, but interwoven with CPS are bad social workers. Social workers that have not been trained properly. They're not educated properly. They are not supervised properly. These social workers are so mean. They hurt people. There are stories of social workers coming into a birthing room where a woman is given birth. They grab the child still with the umbilical cord attached and blood everywhere and take that child. They're so vindictive because they say one thing: when you are in a CPS case, you're not supposed to be pregnant or have more kids because it will take them away from you. So there are horror stories about CPS workers using the police to go in a birthing room. And I don't understand where the doctors' heads are at. The doctor or the managers of hospitals should tell them to wait in the waiting room or have court papers before they take their children. That goes my rule number 3. You don't talk to social workers. You don't bring them in your home. And you don't do the same thing with police. Why? Because they will trick you and use things they find in your home against you. You need to talk to an attorney first. You have a very serious matter when you when you have these people come to your home. So by saying no to them or using no yes answers. If they ask you a question, you say yes or no and don't add anything to it. Yes or no. If they keep persisting, tell them that you need to talk to your attorney. You may not have one, but they don't know that. So you say, I need to talk to my attorney. We will get back to you. Take their name, take the phone number, take their business card if they have one, and you can get back to them. Because CPS is a serious matter. It's really, really serious. We have somebody named Cindy Sewich notebook and record. Many states are one-party consent states and always record at your home. Yes, they do that. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Cindy. What city and state are you from, Cindy? And also, Karen, I need to know that motion that you said they can make in a couple weeks to have the children that are taken away put into family homes. I need that. If anybody else, please text in. I'd love to hear from you. So there's rule number 3. You just tell them, no, you can't enter my home. It's your castle. You cannot take my children. You cannot threaten me with paperwork. Anytime they try to say, if you sign this, you'll get your kids back, that's a ploy to take and steal your children. They do child trafficking. I want you to get you through your head. CPS does child trafficking. They want them in foster care. They don't care what they do or how much hurt they do the family. They're going to exaggerate a claim against you, like you were tested for some drugs and the tests were not valid. That's another thing. Always do your own testing with your own doctor. Don't trust CPS's testing. You have the right to get your own testing to disprove what CPS is trying to do. Now, if you are testing and it is true that you've done drugs, that's a hiccup. That can be repaired. It's not the end of the world. But your home must be free of tobacco and alcohol and drugs if you have any children under the age of 18. Actually, under 21, because in the state of California, you have to be 21 to do any of those 3 things. To use tobacco, to drink, or to use drugs. And right now, the only drugs, it seems, in California, the medical marijuana, you have to be 21. Now, that doesn't mean you, as a parent, have to stop doing that stuff. You just got to do it privately. You got to do it when the kids are not around. You need to go off someplace. Also, I find out that illegal drugs in your system will impair you from doing your duties as a mother or father taking care of your children. They will impair your duties. So I don't recommend any drugs in you. I know with medical marijuana, if the doctor is prescribing it, maybe that is okay. But again, You don't want to sit there in front of a child doing drugs or drinking or smoking tobacco. It's wrong. It's wrong in there. And we have a lot of cases that do this. Okay, Karen Cobb, I still waiting for you to tell me that motion. Cindy, I need to know the city and state you're from if you have it. That's great. I want to get an idea what part of the country you're in. So I've talked about rule number 1, get an attorney. I talked about rule number 2, to get a notebook and take notes. And rule number 3 is to say no to social workers and police. And do not let them take your children. Do not let them come into your home. Now, if they have a warrant, let me tell you about a warrant now. Okay, Cindy says case was under Georgia with interstate placement in Indiana. I've filed a motion to intervene. Okay, great, Cindy. Glad to have that comment. And I'll share that with all the listeners. And this warrant that is issued, it's really careful you look at it. It's got to be a warrant with a wet signature on it, signed by a judge, that says on such and such a date and time, which should be the date that they're going to come into your home, that they can enter the home at such and such an address to see the following allegations with the person that they need to talk to. All that's got to be on that warrant. And it can't be a warrant that isn't signed or that is old and looks like it's a copy. So you can be careful with them. Now, if the children are in imminent danger, like say there's a gunshot going off, the police are going to intervene. If somebody is taking a child who's crying excessively and slamming against the wall, the police are going to intervene. But I'm talking about, in my case, and this was stupid. I still don't understand this today. As I told you, I was going through a perfect storm. And after I laid off of my job in 2010 at the age of 60, I started getting these weird calls. And then they duped me 5 years later because they kept wanting to inspect my home. And in the beginning they had, and nothing was found around about it. But lately I just been meeting them outside of my car. They used a policeman to trick me to follow him to my home to supposedly they needed to see my home. It was such dire, imminent danger. And what they found in my home was my parents' belongings. My parents were dying. And they asked me if I could take their belongings, pack them up, and ship them to family and relatives. So I brought my parents' belongings because I did not have money for a storage place to put it. And they had a lot of belongings. Their house was 4,000 square feet. Mine's 3,000 square feet. It's a lot of things. And yes, it was cluttered. And they got me for neglecting my children because it said the boxes can injure the children or the furniture can injure the children. Now, my injured children were not that young. They were 9, 12, and 15. They were taller than the stacked boxes. And the boxes do not have wings. They will not attack the children in their bedroom. The furniture does not have working legs that go up the stairs. Each child had their own castle, their own room. We had a huge home. But they thought that my parents' belongings, that we as parents were neglecting our children. And that was imminent danger to steal our children out of the home. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. Imminent danger to take our children. And so they took our children. And it was so bad because at my house was 3 social workers, 2 code enforcement officers, 5 firemen, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective. And they all were doing it. And the detective was adamant to file criminal charges But I don't know, maybe because his time was being spent, but he finished the report, sent it to the district attorney. The district attorney pressed the same charges that CPS does, but they're doing it as a misdemeanor with criminal charges. It's really weird to have that. And all CPS did is sit back and say, well, when the criminal charges are taken care of, we'll address the CPS charges. And it was so sad because all they wanted was the money for our 3 children, that $60,000 a month money. And our children went through hell. From the shelter, they did for a period of time live with one of their relatives, which was nice. That was a good thing. But the relatives couldn't take care of them because the case was going on and on. It's supposed to be done in 48 days. It was not. It took 3 years. So then they moved to a group home where they learned bad techniques that Boys Town was instituting because they were running the group home in Southern California. Olive Crest was the previous people, but they knew how much it cost. And so when they bid the project, Boys Town never done this before. They're used to working with kids with no children, with no parents. So what they did not really work out well with my kids. My kids were abused. My son, who was a heavy academic STEM program at his high school because he wanted to be a robotic engineer, could not study late. He always had to study late because there was a lot to study for. And my son, who loved orange juice, my other son, he was denied orange juice. They had a point thing where they accumulated points, but it was so ridiculous that they would do something bad and then almost all the points would be taken away. They had horrific repercussions. It psychologically damaged the children. The group home isn't good. When we as parents come to see our kids, the kids were told not to hug us and to keep our hands to their side. Not only can we not talk about the case or anything, we couldn't even hug our children. What kind of animals is CPS? And I am calling them animals, and I'm not afraid to say that. They are so bad. They are so bad. I said in the beginning of my show how bad they are. They're so, so, so bad. Well, I have about 3 minutes left. I want to thank the ones that had texted me messages. First, it was Jessica James from Central Florida at Polk County, and she needed help with a very unusual case and scared to make the situation worse. You won't. Just go with your heart, get an attorney. Then there was Chris Williams that just said, hey, I don't know what city or state, but that's all she said. Then we had several comments by Karen, who was trying to help us. She's an advocate. And she left me one thing hanging, that there was supposedly a special hearing that you could file to have your kids come back to you. And she was from Illinois. Then there was Cindy, who talked about a notebook and how they record home visits. And she's from Georgia. And that she was fighting a motion to have permanent taking of her kids. And yes, Cindy, thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you listeners. And I got to go right now because my time's up. And I hope that you all keep pursuing your family, bring your families back together. I care about you as real people, and I want you all to not give up. CPS needs a lot of changes, and you need an attorney to fight them. You need someone that is a fighter. So I'll see you the next time tonight. I'll be on at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and every day of the week. And I'm here to help you with hopefully ideas, emotions, and things that will help you. Good luck with the upcoming year. Best wishes, and God bless you.